At the Oscars this weekend, when Citizen4 won Best Documentary, that being the documentary, of course, about the experiences of Edward Snowden, Neil Patrick Harris got in a little bit of trouble because of a joke that he said. He said that Snowden couldn't be here for some treason. A little play on words, but it was a play on words that got him under fire by a few people, including people intimately involved in the creation of that actual film. So perhaps most principally, we have Glenn Greenwald, who did not appreciate the joke at all. He was talking to BuzzFeed and he said it was stupid and irresponsible. He said, I thought it was pretty pitiful, so to just casually spew that sort of accusation against someone who's not even charged with it, let alone convicted of it, I think is, stupid and irresponsible. And Glenn Greenwald, of course, is intimately involved in not just the movie, but of course the entire situation with Edward Snowden. And this is a contentious issue, of course, because Edward Snowden is currently still in exile, of course. Were he to come back, he would almost certainly be charged with treason. And so this is an issue in which people's emotions run very high. The revelations from the data that Edward Snowden revealed about both spying and some of our actions in Iraq, the U.S. military, I mean, they fire people up, and they should, because he revealed a lot of really dark shit that the military is doing, and the NSA, of course. And it's unfortunately, of course, tragic that people have largely forgotten about that, don't seem to care about the NSA spying anymore. Once ISIS started cutting people's heads off, they weren't so concerned about the fact that billions and billions of phone calls and email communications and stuff like that were being tracked, but perhaps in a few years we'll return to it. So he was mad about that, and I know that some people even on our network did not take that joke well. Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks just yesterday said that he did not like it, that it bothered him, and I understand why. We don't like to see such an important both person and issue being joked about, especially when you had, for a long period of time, commentators on Fox openly talking about how he should be executed for the information that he revealed. So it's a big issue. I mean, we're talking about literally a man's life and death, possibly. But just out of curiosity, what did Snowden think? Because it is about him, after all. Edward Snowden said, to be honest, I laughed at NPH. I don't think it was meant as a political statement, but even if it was, that's not so bad. My perspective is, if you're not willing to be called a few names to help out your country, you don't care enough. Which is just about the perfect response to that joke, I think. I mean, not that he really cares necessarily about scoring points on the internet, but that is how you should react to it. And of course, you have to bear in mind that both Neil Patrick Harris and the vast majority of the audience at the Oscars almost certainly at least leans liberal. Neil Patrick Harris seems like a smart guy. I'm sure he's relatively educated about Edward Snowden and the entire revelations and the WikiLeaks and all that. And so it's very likely that he wishes Edward Snowden could come back. At least have a fair shake at a trial as opposed to just being summarily executed as Fox News wants. And so you have to understand that. But of course, the umbrella over this entire issue, and the way that I try to generally approach every case like this, as I did when Seth MacFarlane made some jokes that people didn't like at the Oscars a few years ago, is that it's a joke. And Neil Patrick Harris is a comedian. And so I think you should be given incredibly wide latitude. If you're a comedian, and if underneath your comedy you do not have vile motives. That's an important distinction. Comedy is an incredibly important issue. It is, by the way, it's an art form. And I remember listening to an XM show where a comedian was on. He was talking about how there are so many issues that people do not want comedians to be able to joke about. And that doesn't seem right, because comedy is how they approach an issue. That's how they make art about an issue. You wouldn't tell someone they couldn't paint a picture of a political issue or sing a song about it necessarily. Now, comedy is a little bit more specific, but it is an art form. It is a historic art form as old as humanity itself. And so I think that it causes you to rethink it, to think about it perhaps in a new way, even an issue like Edward Snowden's forced exile. And so I think that Neil Patrick Harris was perfectly fine in making that joke. It's one of the few actually funny things that was said at the Oscars. So I think that if Edward Snowden wants to let him off the hook, we should let him off the hook too.